I thought it might be a good idea to talk about the future.
What do you mean?
You don't seem to want me to get pregnant, and you don't help me around the house when I'm going through morning sickness. You didn't even worry about me when I collapsed at the supermarket the other day.
Because you're just sick since you're pregnant, right? I was angry because you're just at home resting all the time like a sick person. If you're going to bother me like that, then get an abortion and get rid of the baby. I don't want to have a baby with you.
My name is Jenny. I am 26 years old, and I am a full-time housewife. I have been married to my husband Will for 2 years. He asked me to concentrate on housework, so I quit the company I was working for. My husband was a colleague of mine at the company I joined after I graduated college. Because we were in the same department, I had more opportunities to talk with Will than with other male colleagues. Before I knew it, we had become quite close in that department. Apparently, Will had been interested in me since he first joined the company. He aggressively approached me, and from there we started to go on dates. And after a year of being in a relationship with him, we got married. When he proposed to me, Will asked me to devote myself to house chores. I took the marriage as an opportunity to quit the company I was working for and became a full-time housewife. But I loved my job and didn't really want to quit. I was happy he proposed, but to be honest, I was not comfortable with the idea of becoming a full-time housewife. Still, I accepted the idea of becoming a housewife because I really loved him, and partly because it was his wish. I was moved by his personality where he would take the lead in things. One day, 2 years into our marriage, I continued to feel ill and spent much of the day in bed. Will was also getting concerned and suggested that I go to the hospital.
Hey, Jenny, are you okay? I'm worried about you as well, so why don't you go to the hospital tomorrow?
Yes, thanks for worrying about me. I'll go to the hospital tomorrow. I was glad that Will cared about me being sick. The next day, I went to the hospital and found out that I was in the early stages of pregnancy. My recent health problems were due to my pregnancy. I was so happy to hear this that I wanted to tell Will about it immediately. I couldn't wait for him to come home, so I called him at work. However, he did not answer the phone, probably because he was busy at work. So I waited excitedly for Will to come home from work.
I'm home!
Welcome home! I was more happy that I was pregnant than not feeling well, and I guess because of that, it looked like I was feeling better.
Oh? Are you feeling better now? How was the hospital?
I found out why I wasn't feeling well.
You mean you weren't sick?
Will must have realized that when he saw my expression. Well, what do you think? If you saw my expression, you would know that I was not sick.
Oh. I wonder what it is then.
I found out that I have a baby in my belly. I finally got to tell him. I was curious to see how Will would react. However, Will's reaction took away my happiness really quickly.
What? You mean that you weren't sick? You mean to say that you're a housewife and you weren't sick, but you skipped house chores and slept all day? Then why don't you look for a job? Once we have a baby, we can't spend money on the things we like to do.
I was astounded by his reaction, since I didn't expect that at all from him. Wouldn't a normal married couple cry and rejoice when they have a baby between them? Will, you and I are going to have a baby, you know. Aren't you happy? Besides, it was you who told me to become a full-time housewife and concentrate on housework.
Well...
Mumbling that, Will trailed off. The next morning, I was too sick to cook breakfast. Then to this, Will says something unbelievable.
Hey! Don't fake being sick and make me breakfast. I have to go to work now.
Well, I'm pregnant and not feeling well. Let me rest. He's not a child, and if I'm not feeling well, he should at least make breakfast on his own. Seeing Will's reaction, I realized that he did not want me to be pregnant. My morning sickness got worse as the days went by. Even under such circumstances, Will wouldn't care about me and he would go out on his days off and would not help me with the house chores. Will loves to gamble and going to horse racing shows, and he's probably gambling away today. While I was the one suffering from morning sickness, he doesn't even worry about me. Thinking about this, I gradually became really disappointed in Will. One day while shopping for dinner, my morning sickness became so bad that I couldn't walk at all. I called Will at work to tell him that I was suffering from morning sickness and needed him to pick me up, but he refused, saying that he had to work late and could not go. I guess he prioritizes his work more than his own wife. After Will refused, I decided to call my mother to come and pick me up. But before she arrived, I passed out and collapsed in the supermarket. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in an ambulance. Next to me, my mother was watching over me with a worried look on her face. Once I arrived at the hospital, I went through a medical examination, just in case I was admitted to the hospital for one day. My mother had informed Will and my father and I was going to be hospitalized, and my father immediately rushed to the hospital. In the end, Will was the only one who did not come to the hospital. I could not believe that Will did not rush to the hospital even though I, his wife, collapsed and was rushed to the hospital by ambulance, which was caused by my poor physical condition due to my pregnancy. I don't want to rely on my parents too much because the issue between Will is our own business. But I couldn't stand it any longer and told my parents all about Will's attitude since I became pregnant. I couldn't stop crying as the things I had been holding back overflowed. My parents were surprised and angry at Will, but I was pregnant at the moment. It's not like they could make me get a divorce at a critical time like this, but my parents gave me an advice to have a proper talk with Will about the future. Yes, I'll talk it over with Will once. Thank you for hearing me out.
I don't care if you get divorced. I want you to make a choice that you wouldn't regret, Jenny. Dad and I are on your side.
I was almost in tears again because of how kind my parents were. The next day, I was discharged from the hospital and decided to discuss the future with Will, just as my parents had told me to do. Will, I need to talk to you for a minute.
What's the matter?
I thought we should talk once about our future.
What do you mean?
You don't seem to want me to get pregnant, and you don't help me around the house when I'm going through morning sickness. You didn't even worry about me when I collapsed at the supermarket the other day.
And because you're just sick since you're pregnant, right? I was angry because you're just at home resting all the time like a sick person. If you're going to bother me like that, then get an abortion and get rid of the baby. I don't want to have a baby with you.
How dare he say such terrible things like that to me? I wonder if we are really a couple. Something has snapped inside of me. I'm going back to my parents' house for a while. Saying that, I packed my bags and left the house. Will looked a little confused, but he did not even try to stop me. Even if he had stopped me, I would not have changed my mind, but a normal husband would have stopped me here. With this in mind, I went to my parents' house and told them what had happened. This time, my parents were quite angry with Will's attitude. A few days later, I received phone calls from Will, but I ignored them all. I don't even want to hear his voice now. Then, Will came directly to my parents' house. And he said something really outrageous.
I told my parents about you. My parents are very angry with you. If you feel bad, then come and apologize to my parents too.
Will said in a voice that even my parents could hear. I was stunned and frustrated with myself for not being able to say anything back to him. Why was even my in-laws angry at me when I had done nothing wrong? My parents seemed to feel that this problem could not be solved by me alone.
Jenny, I heard what Will said, but I will help you. So let's go talk to Will's parents once. I'm always there for you, sweetie.
My parents were always on my side. A few days later, I decided to take my parents to my in-laws' house. My parents and I were filled with anger. When we arrived at my in-laws' house, my in-laws showed us to the guest room. My parents and I, Will and his parents, began to discuss the situation. My in-laws were still quite angry for some reason. I guess that Will was telling some things to his parents for his own benefit. Oh, Jenny, I heard that Will does all the house chores when he gets home from work. Is it true that you just play around and do nothing, even though you're the housewife? I understand that being pregnant and having morning sicknesses can be hard, but from what I heard, Will seems to be doing the house chores, so why are you the only one who gets the easy way? And how can you just leave the house and go back to your parents' house without saying anything? I couldn't understand the situation at all because what my mother-in-law Lara was saying is the opposite compared to the actual truth. I am even more surprised that even Lara was defending Will for wrong reasons. I was about to tell the truth when my father opened his mouth.
Lara, everything you're saying is completely wrong.
Yes, you should know that it's very difficult to even go out during morning sickness since you must have experienced it yourself, Lara. Besides, did you hear that Jenny collapsed while shopping and was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance? Will didn't even come to the hospital to see her then. My parents were usually quiet and kept to themselves, so I had never seen them be so angry to other people like that. My parents are my strong allies. Just by thinking so, I was able to firmly tell Lara and Jordan the truth. What Will is telling you both is probably not true. I held in my anger and told them everything that had happened. After all, the story was probably completely different from what Will had told them. Both Lara and Jordan listened to our story in shock. Will looked pale besides them. Just by looking at them, I could tell which one of us was lying. Then my father spoke up again.
Since I was concerned about Will, who was not pleased when Jenny got pregnant, I had a background check on Will.
I had no idea that my father was conducting a background check on my husband. I was happy that my father was doing that out of concern, but after learning about the truth, I had really mixed feelings.
Will, I'm sure that's you in these photos here, right?
My father took out several photographs from his bag. The photos showed him entering a hotel with a woman I've never seen before. So, Will was having an affair.
There's more. Will, you have a debt from gambling, and it's a huge amount, right?
Excuse me? I look at Will, and his hands are trembling. An affair? And in debt? I can't forgive him for hiding something like this. I began to panic, and since my heart hurt like never before, I began to have panic attacks. Jenny, are you okay? My mother is also in panic. I could feel the air in the room freeze. After I had calmed down, the discussion continued again. From listening to the whole story, my father-in-law, Jordan, began to say something in a really low voice.
What Jenny said, and these photos, and the debt. Is it all true? No, it's not true.
Will is obviously upset, and his words are trembling. He told me to get rid of the baby if me being sick from morning sickness was going to bother him. Besides, he made me quit my job. And now, when I got pregnant, he tells me to find a job. I also told these things to Jordan. Then, Jordan began to yell.
Get out!
At first, I thought he was talking to me and my parents. But I was wrong. He was talking to Will.
Will, you have driven Jenny into a corner like this, and I will no longer have any family ties with you. You must apologize sincerely to her and her parents.
Will, who usually makes excuses for himself, had given up hope that he could not go on any longer, and he held down his trembling hands and slumped down.
It's all true. I am sorry.
Will continued to look down. For the first time, Will admitted his mistake and apologized. I felt that Will was reflecting on what he had done and was regretting it. But it is too late for any regrets. My mind is already made up. That's enough. Lift up your head. I've already decided to divorce you.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm really sorry. Will you give me another chance?
No way. I refused him right away. I don't need a man who likes to gamble and cheat on his wife. I had no complaints if he gambled only a little amount. But to think that he had even created huge debts? Besides, if he thought cheating was acceptable, he really was a stupid man. I have no regrets about that decision. That day, I filled out the divorce papers I brought with me, and our divorce was finalized. Of course, I filed for alimony and child support later. I wanted to claim Will's mistress as well, but apparently Will pretended that he was single. So, his mistress was also tricked by Will in a sense, and I decided not to file a claim against her. I later found out that Will had been having an affair since the beginning of our marriage. He wanted to divorce me at the right time and remarry his mistress. However, when he found out that I was pregnant, he thought that his plan wouldn't work, and that's why he was treating me terribly like that. After we had a divorce, he remarried the woman with whom he had an affair with. However, he did not learn his lesson and got divorced again when he was caught cheating on her with another woman. Therefore, in addition to the alimony and child support he owes to me, he also owes alimony to his mistress, and he seems to be in a lot of debt. Rumors of this have spread within the company, and he has lost his place at work as well. His parents had completely cut ties off from him and has no one to turn to. I have no intention of defending him. In fact, I even hope that he will continue to go through hell and reflect on what he has done. Meanwhile, I am living happily at home with my parents, myself, and my baby. I am at the happiest right now. I don't want my child to have the same painful experience as I had in the future. And I want to give my child the love that I received from my parents. My mother defended me at that time, and my father even investigated my ex-husband's background. I feel that for the first time since I became a parent, I understand how my parents feel. I would like to cherish my gratitude to my parents and my love for my baby. Thank you for watching to the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video.